It's a lovely Saturday morning and welcome to the show that gives you nothing but the best in terms of sports coverage in Zambia as well as on the African continent, even as we look at the European side of things as well. Welcome to Off the Pitch, which is a sports show that covers local football as the main thing that we are here for. And in the studio this morning we've got a very special guest. All of you know him. I don't even think it's correct for me to refer to him as a guest. He's one of us who's been coming whenever we call upon him, and it's good to have you on the show, Bob Bwezani. Welcome to Off the Pitch.
Thank you. It's also good to be here. I think the last time I was here, we were crying about Red Arrows releasing a lot of players, not knowing that it was actually a blessing in disguise. They'll be playing CAF from I think the last time it was 2013. They drew new at home, lost 1-0 away, and that was out. So, yeah, it's good to be back.
Thank you so much, and it will be nice to discuss that in details. Augustine, welcome back to the show this weekend again, and congratulations to Red Arrows.
Thank you very much. We return all the glory and honor to the Most High God for the gift of life and good health. And it's been an eventful week. We saw Chisimbe's boys qualify for continental football. It hasn't been easy. It has been rough. There have been caused sacked, but the management stuck to Chisimbe, and now we've seen what he has produced since, like Bwezani said, the last time we played in continental football it was against Royal Eagles of
Swaziland. Yeah.
We drew at Boloma Stadium and lost 1-0 in Swaziland. We hope to have a very good outing this time around. Better preparation. Preparation started the minute we qualified for continental football, in trying to identify which areas we need to spend.
Yeah, before we get to local football, I would just like to guide the viewers that I'm sure you are all worried about one Amos aka Amore. He's not with us this morning. He's around, and he will probably join us next week. And I am your host for this morning's show. My name is Rabson Skombe, and I'll be with you until the end of the show. And going straight to the point, the greatest news of Zambian football is on PATSON, DAKA, getting into England and joining Leicester City. Your views on that, Bwezani?
Well, it was becoming a boring topic. You see, because I think he's one player that has received a lot of gossips and transfer rumors, which are not coming to an end. I think it was imminent when his coach moved to German. I think all of us thought he was actually going to go to German. And when the rumors of England came up, Liverpool were a team that looked like they would actually get him. Okay, all of a sudden Chelsea came in. Leicester were nowhere near that pecking order. And to just get that confirmation that he's definitely now signed and going to Leicester, I think for me it was great news. First of all, I was not one of those people that were excited about Liverpool. Okay? Because, look, I know PATSON is a great player, but there's also pressure that comes with the names of the teams. Okay, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Man United. Well, these teams have built a very big name where it will be very difficult for some of the players that want to get into England. So for Leicester, they'll be playing into the Europa Cup, and I think it's a good move for him. Basically, you look at Leicester. There are two names that you pick up: Vardy and Emeacho, the Nigerian. Okay, so you look at how they play. You start asking yourself, is this boy going to feature there? You understand what I mean? So But then his PATSON DAKA, we've seen his quality in the way he gets his goals. He actually plays better than the Nigerian, I'll be honest with you, because he can score with his head, his leg, okay? And what benefits him more, he's quick on the ball. That is his attribute that most of us would actually agree with. People are saying he's coming from the Farmers League, but I think if you look at what he's done, he's played Europa twice. He's played Champions League, and I think he's reached. One thing that we are comparing him with some of the players that represented Zambia into the English Premier League, and that's where the confusion is. He's not Mayuka. He's not anyone else who has gone. He's PATSON DAKA, and I think he's been prepared very well to get into the English Premier League and compete. Before I hand over, we should know the reason as to why he didn't move last season. Okay? So, one, remember he was second choice striker at Salzburg to Haaland, when Haaland was still there. Now, why he didn't move, those that managed him clearly stated to say he had not been a player, a first strike player for the team, Salzburg. So what they needed was, can we see him as a first choice striker at Salzburg, see how he's going to perform, and that's when we can decide.
Makes negotiations better.
Yes. So he was now the first choice striker, and we saw what he did, all those accolades, all those records that he broke. So I think it is the right time now for him to move and show us what he can do.
Augustine, your take on PATSON DAKA's move to Leicester City with regards to game time, when you look at the options that we kept on hearing way before he actually moved into England. Like Bozani has mentioned, he had several options that were purportedly, for lack of a better term, we can call them rumors, because the only fact is the fact that he has joined Leicester City now. With regards to game time, the choice of the team that he has picked, what is your view about it?
I think if you look at PATSON DAKA's style of play, I think it's a little bit similar to Jimmy Vardy, because they are the kind of strikers who like to play on the last defender's shoulders. They like to attack the space in front of them, and it's the way Leicester City play. You've seen Jimmy Vardy is the kind of player who always play on the counter-attack. He's quick. He can come up short to get the ball, and he's not the kind of player who peel out into the wings, because Leicester City have got a lot of players in those areas. They've got Harvey Barnes, they've got O'Brighton, they've got Madison, who will do all the work behind the strikers to try and create. All what PATSON DAKA needs to do at Leicester City is just to score the goals. It's what Jimmy Vardy has been doing, it's what Kelechi Iheanacho has been doing, and he goes into a football club whereby he's got the chance to try and play as the first striker. He will not start all the games for Leicester City, but he will be given a fair chance of games to play. Because if you look at Kelechi Iheanacho, I think there was a time he struggled for goals at Leicester City, and you would have thought he was going to be offloaded, but they kept faith in him. Even the manager Brendan Rodgers had faith in Kelechi Iheanacho to try and play for the team. I think PATSON DAKA going to Leicester City, I think it's the best move. Liverpool would have been a step higher. Manchester United would have been a step higher. The pressure which comes with playing at those big clubs, you need to perform week in, week out. It's different. The league, the league is different from the Austrian Bundesliga. Salzburg are always expected to win the Austrian Bundesliga. But for Leicester City, it's a different challenge altogether. PATSON DAKA, he's been through a lot of criticism. There was a time where he was being called for the under 17, under 20, under 23, and the senior national team. He was going under heavy criticism. There was a time where you would have thought now he's losing it in his career when he went to Power Dynamos. He struggled to find game time, but he kept working hard behind the scenes. I think he was overshadowed at some point by Conrad Luchanga, if you remember, when he joined Power Dynamos. But he's someone who is humble enough to keep working, and he's not the guy who will start feeling sorry for himself, but he'll just knuckle down and get the job done.
Thank you so much. To the viewers who are joining us, we have our special guest, a friend and a brother in the football family, Bozani Mbewe, who's joined us this morning. And I think with regards to PATSON DAKA's move into England, the radar has shifted to Enoch Mwepu. Enoch Mwepu is rumored to have left, not really rumored, it's confirmed he left his training schedule. He was excused to deal with his possible transfer, and hopefully as news breaks out, we will be able to give you that news that we'll be covering on Enoch Mwepu's next move, if at all he's going to move to any other club in Europe. And I think to the viewers who are joining us now, we will come back with a lot more on Zambian football with regards to the season ending and the season preview. And the topic that we've just been discussing on PATSON DAKA, please feel free to call us in and just give us your contribution and your take on PATSON DAKA's move to Leicester City. For now, we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be back with you on the other side as we discuss the Zambian League that ended last weekend. Welcome back to the show, and with me in the studio, like I've said, we are now going to proceed and discuss the local football that ended dramatically on the last day with plenty of news coming in whilst the games were still going on, and scenarios kept on changing I think the last 20 minutes of last weekend's games on Sunday. We had a number of scenarios changing, and one of the best scenarios that happened was in Kabwe, which actually confirmed Kabwe Warriors as one of the teams that are joining the top 4 continental representatives from Zambian League. And I think we know that Zesco United had a very big party on Sunday after dispatching Buildcon Football Club by 7 goals to 2 on the last day. There we had Jesse Were scoring 4 goals in one match, taking him to 10 on the last day, beating everybody at Zesco United to the top scorers award that he actually got. Now, discussing Zesco United, and when you look at the beginning of the season, when Numba Mumamba left Konkola Blades briefly to where he was there for about a week or 2, and he decided to join Zesco United, the target that Numba Mumamba had was basically safeguarding the team and finishing in the top 4. But alas, they are the league champions. Your take, Bwezan?
Yeah, first of all, let's be very clear with the Konkola Blades issue, because I think it has been said in many forums, he was never appointed as the Konkola Blades coach. Okay, so what Konkola Blades wanted to do is for him to help him, to help the team rather, in the technical aspect, preparing to go for the playoffs, getting into National Division 1. So that was
no contractual obligations.
No contractual obligations. So because he was clear with Konkola Blades and said, well, I'm still looking out. There are a lot of offers that have come, but I can help you during this time, okay, to prepare the team to get into the playoffs. And yes, when he was named the head coach for Zesco United, on record, I'm one of them that said it looks to be a very good move. Unfortunately, a lot of Zesco fans actually did not like that move, because they thought
they were doing a direct comparison with a coach who was leaving the club.
Exactly. Yeah. And this notion, I think that's one thing which we need to clear. This notion of saying the team is too big for him. You understand? You look at Zanaco, where he's coming from. Which team is bigger? Zanaco and the Zesco United. Of course, when you talk about titles, you give it to Zesco United. But I think if you talk about the existence of team, Zanaco is actually bigger. Okay? So he had a lot to prove. And I think his first games really started justifying what the fans were talking about, because he struggled to to hit the road running for Zesco United. But I think what worked for Numba Mamba is his rotation, to bring in as many young players as possible. Because look, the challenge that he had was Zesco Limited. We are now very critical on the number of foreign players that were there. So they had to shed off the foreign players and replace them with the local players. We talk about Lazarus Peel. He was a not known player from Kasanshi Dynamos, of course, on loan from Green Eagles. Okay, you talk about Chanda Mukuka. How do you replace Akum with Chanda Mukuka? You understand? So these are the things that actually made Numba Mamba, for him to achieve what he has achieved. For me, it's not a shock. He's done that with Zanaco. Remember 2016 when he went the whole season without a loss at home. So we were bringing in a coach that still knew exactly what to do to win the league. But the circumstances which surrounded him, we need to give him a lot of respect. To turn these young boys into seriously competitive players into this Zesco team, you are talking about removing Winston Kalengo and putting in Sakala into a very critical game. You understand? So you see a lot of courage in Numba Mamba, and I think he's just proved to everyone to say he's one of the best coaches that we have.
I think that courage that you are talking about, Bozani, is the same courage that also goes the other way around. It's a very, very big motivating factor to the young player who's actually going in. When you see a player of Winston Kalengo's caliber is being taken off the pitch and you are being told to replace him, you get that confidence that the coach really has in me as a player, that I can do what Winston was actually doing and do better for the team actually.
Yeah, exactly. I think like Bozana said, he showed a lot of faith in young players. I think we saw maybe in Chishimba at left back. I think he was preferred sometimes to ahead of Faxon Kapumbu and Mwila Piri. And one interesting player was Solomon Sakala. I think he was, I think we would have been thinking of him being chopped by Zesco United. Solomon Sakala wasn't seeing a lot of game time, but Numba Mamba went into Zesco United and trusted Solomon Sakala to be his preferred centre back ahead of Maseo Kalonda and Clement Mapit. Yeah, I think to me that was a very, very brave move by Numba Mamba. We saw a lot of young players coming through, like Kasomoluwa. I think very, very impressive young lads. Enoch Sakala, like Bozania said, it's not easy for a coach of Numba Mamba stature. There was a lot of criticism on his move going to Zesco United. Fans did have confidence in him, but he believed in the team in front of him. I think what these coaches do every time when you are appointed, you improve the players that you have. I think that's what Numba Mamba did. I think if you remember going back into the transfer window, I think the only player which was signed after Numba Mamba was appointed was actually Chanda Mukuka. Maybe that was the only signing would have been picked that, okay, this is the player I want to have, because Bruce Msakanya and Kelvin Kampamba were signed before Numba Mamba even took over. He went with them to pre-season, worked them very, very hard, and results, I think, probably we always judge coaches when results don't come in, but we don't look at the performances. Okay,
very quickly on Zesco United, their preparations for the CAF Confederations Champions League. What do you think the team needs to do differently to go and compete at that level with these youngsters that Numba has blended with the veterans that are still sitting at Zesco United?
I'll tell you, that's not child's play. And if Numba Mamba is going to sit and say comfortably he has a team, he's lying to himself. We need to learn lessons from Munkana and Napsa Stars where they are today because of CAF. Okay, when teams get into CAF now, they should have a skeleton team that is going to play CAF, a skeleton team that is going to play the league, so that they are able to blend. Okay, now getting into the CAF Champions League, and just look around Africa and see the teams that are making it into Champions League. Ewali is there, okay?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and you may actually see a draw of Zesco United versus Ewali. So he needs to have serious preparations to look into this. I think there are a lot of Zambian players where he can look around. I'm excited to even hear that he's looking out for Dixon Chapa. He has the CAF experience now, okay? So he seriously needs to still work into that midfield. For me, the midfield, yes, there's Chanda Mukuka, but we've seen when things go rough, these boys just disappear. It calls for experience. So they still need to bring in a number of players. For me, maximum of about 4. Up front, Jackson Jesse Were is no longer the Were that we know. He's been scoring goals, yes, but practically, you see him lacking in most of the area. Kelvin Mwanga is still going to be key, but if they manage Dixon Chapa, that is if Napsa Stars is going to say yes, that one will be a very good signing. But apart from that, I think they will have to go around and get at least 2 more midfielders and one striker to just help the solidarity of that striking force.
Shifting back to the runners-up in the Zambian Super League, where Zanaco Football Club, eminently because of their bad trips away from home, that could have costed their league championship, because clearly at home, probably it's one of the best performing teams in the last season, where they were picking maximum points, and the worst cases were actually where they just draw. But on the road, Zanaco Football Club were very, very terrible. Probably that's what led to Chris Kaunda's separation from Zanaco Football Club. What is your view on how the team performed in the course of this season and their preparations towards the Champions League?
Yeah, I think if you look at Zanaco, I think a lot of is expected from Zanaco coming into the season, because when the league was ended prematurely, they were actually probably the home team in that league. When the league was cut short prematurely, you thought Zanaco would have started on fire this season and try and push Zesco United a little bit more than they did. And you look at the numbers they have. If you have got the Moses Piru who's going to score 17 goals in the league, and you've got Roger Kola who's scoring about 12 goals, I think you need to be up there. I think you need to challenge for the title. I think if you look at the goals, I think they have been the highest scorers, if I'm not mistaken, in the league, Sensations Zanaco. But I think it's their form away from home is their undoing part, Sensations Zanaco. One thing I noticed, they never had a recognized back four. That was the biggest problem compared to Zesco United side. Yes, Mama rotated in other areas, but not mostly in the defense. Probably we rotate the left back, but not the center halves. Because I think if you look at Zanaco, they had Zio Tembo, they had the Belgians Lombardi, they had Kajobe, they had Owusu, they had Belchance Makies. I think he chopped and changed the players who are in front of that goalkeeper, and the goalkeeping situation didn't help Sensations Zanaco, because Mangani Banda made a couple of mistakes which costed the team goals. Lachakora is not the Lachakora of 5 years ago. So they had problems in certain areas, Sensations Zanaco, and I thought they would have addressed them in the transfer market, but they did not. They went into the league. They got Baba Basile, the runner-up top scorer from James Shamanga in the previous season. You thought you would hit the ground running, but sometimes some of these players, maybe Baba was just a one-hit wonder. I think we can see it was just a one-season wonder. He failed to perform at Zanaco, and they brought in exciting young lad, I think, in Abraham Ziankombo. I think if we take away Moses Spirit's goals, I think he's been the Zanaco's best player. You look at their holding midfield, Kelvin Kapombo hasn't been himself. I think this is not the Kelvin Kapombo we saw from previous seasons. I think he started the league very, very well, but this performance dipped going into deep into the season. I think going into CAF competitions now, I think Zanaco will have to address the issue of the coach. They need to bring in a coach who bring his philosophy to the football club, because you cannot be appointing a coach 2-3 weeks from the start of the league. I think it will be a disaster if it happens that way. They need to sort that issue now before the league is about to start. But I think Zanaco, they have been campaigning in continental football. They've got a couple of players who played there. I think they just need to get their act right and go and attack Africa.
Bozan, Zanaco Football Club is rumored, there's a rumor that maybe Moses Spirit would be leaving the club. When you look at the instability on the technical bench, like Augustine has alluded to, I think there's quite a bit of work that Zanaco needs to do before they actually get ready, even for the next league. Remember that they've been using Mr. Munsaka as the standing coach for this period. That is a team that is representing the country at continental football. And when you look at the period that is remaining before the fixtures are announced at the end of this month, what is your view about how quickly they need to turn things around and stabilize the squad?
They needed to do that last week. Just that tells you how behind they are. I think there are a lot of issues that they need to sort out. First of all, the administrative issues, the EXCO issues are actually going to be very big stumbling blocks to the success of Zanaco in CAF. I don't know why Zambian teams don't learn. Look, if they wanted Chris Kaunda off, I think they would have done it a long time ago. Because if if excusing him from the team was because of his away record is as far as when the season was starting, okay? Because the home record, excellent. And so, some people would actually be asking why he was let go. Now, they can no longer wait. They can no longer wait because they need a coach who is going to come, identify few players that are supposed to come and help this team stabilize. Okay, with rumors of Moses going, that's huge. He was the talisman. Roger Kola, look, he's not the Roger Kola that we know. Of course, he's banging in goals, but you can actually see him dwindling. Okay, so just as we talked about on Zesco United, the more bigger problems are actually with Zanaco. They are not in the CAF Confederations Cup. They are in the Champions League, which is very difficult compared to the CAF Confederations Cup. So the question you asked me, they need to start it now. If last week they didn't manage, there are these rumors of Gavin Hunt. This is not time for rumors. It's time to concretize exactly what you are looking for. There are coaches, unfortunately also the Zambian coaches, most of the Zambian coaches have CAF B and CAF C.
Yeah, true.
Which is not allowed for you to sit on
in the
bench
Champions League.
In the Champions League or in the CAF Confederation Cup, understand? So numbers of coaches are actually dwindling. So this is the reason as to why you hear Gavin Hunt, if they can afford him, the better. Whatever they need to do it now, so that at least those preparations start.
Very quickly, Cabo Warriors and Red Arrows, as it is, before any other administrative issues at FAS are concluded, we could see Cabo Warriors being dropped off the top four.
So. I seriously don't think, even before Augustine comes, look, Agret Yangi had opportunities to get into CAF. If he has failed this one, let him try next season. This thing of winning and getting into CAF, seriously, I called Agre, of course, unfortunately, he didn't pick. Look, you failed. He had a poor season. Let him prepare for the next season. This of trying to get these 3 points from Young Green Eagles won't work. We all know. For me, I know. I followed the case of that boy. Okay, he was given a release letter by Green Eagles. Yes, he was given a release letter by Green Eagles. He joined Young Green Eagles. He was registered there. So I think that's a non-starter for me. So it is Cabo Warriors, and I'm on record again. It's Cabo Warriors that are going to play CAF Confederations Cup. We'll see how that thing unveils. Now talking about Cabo Warriors, it's a whole lot of work that they need to do. We saw Cabo Warriors playing APSA Cup. And we saw that mentality that we saw with those players. So if Ian Bakala is going to think he has players that can play CAF, he has a lot of work coming in his way. We are going to get embarrassed. Okay? So Cabo Warriors, I know Charles Chakataza follows this program very well, he's the CEO. They need to sit down, just reorganize themselves well. The biggest challenge again that they have is Ian Bakala may not have the CAF A. Okay, so what that means is that all these teams, Zanaco, they need to find coaches as serious Cabo Warriors. So that's one thing that Cabo Warriors have to work on. Players, for me, if I look into that players, they may have even 7 players that are able to play CAF confidently. What does that mean? They need about 10 players that are supposed to go to Cabo Warriors if that team is to represent Zambia well. Otherwise, it will be an embarrassment.
It will be a replication of what Red Arrows did in 2013 when they played just one home and away match and they were kicked out. Your take on the Red Arrows qualification to Confederations Cup, Augustine?
Yeah, I think it's been well documented. I think the way Red Arrows started this season, releasing 12 players, senior players for that matter, the likes of Joseph Zimba, Danny Muniao, Danny Siva and many others, Bronson Chama. I think going back to the season which ended prematurely, Red Arrows, I think, were just 3-4 points away from the top 4 when the league was cut prematurely. But unfortunately, Red Arrows last season, it was all about the draws. They got a lot of draws, and coming into this season, they lost Bronson Chama, who was the heart of that defense. I think he was always pairing someone else. I think now coming into this season, going into pre-season, looking at the way Chisimbewe started setting up his team, you could see that he wanted the pairing of Trezor Shibwabo and Elvis Bisson.
Do you think the material that Red Arrows has is sufficient to represent the country very well at continental level?
Yeah, I think
they need to have some additions.
They need to have some addition in certain areas because they have got like Benedict Chepeshi, that's an international player. They've got Poka Tema, they've got James Chamanga, he has been at the Africa Cup of Nations. They have got Alassane Diarra, probably one of the best midfielders in the league, and so they need to add in certain areas. Prosper Chilwell looks different now. I think has grown into a player who we thought he was going to be, and in attacking areas, maybe they need someone to try and help James Chamanga in terms of goals. They need the creative winger, and maybe probably someone in central midfield. The defense, maybe at the heart of defense, they'll need some cover. But when the season started, they was using young Nixon Mobili. I think he did very, very well to come into big shoes of Bronson Chama, which Bronson Chama left, and he was very, very decent. A lot of criticism started when those players were released by Arrows. A lot of people said you cannot have a village without elders. But what was going happening at Arrows was that Chisimbewe wasn't respected by some of the players. We have to be honest, and they were not looking up to him like a coach because they played with him. Then he became their kit master, and then he became part of that technical team. So
that is what I call the sign of humbleness in somebody who intends to be a leader.
Exactly. I think
from the reputation that he had on the pitch to a kit master, and back to being entrusted with the team.
Does he have coffee?
But he's done his studies, I think,
no.
Yeah, so going back.
This question, Bwezani, I think that will be the biggest assignment of the week that we need to check. Yeah. All the 4 teams that have qualified in continental football, probably only one is likely to have a CAF A, and we will confirm that during the course of the week. Let's shift our attention to the most interesting side of the league, the bottom 4, the relegation battle that was fought on the last day. What is your take on the 4? Of course, not on the 4. The 3 had already been confirmed. It's the last lot which was critical on the day, which involved Indeni Football Club, Young Green Eagles, and of course, Nkana Football Club.
Well, I'll talk about Nkana because everyone expects me to say something about Nkana. I think, look, it's good that they survived. First of all, it brings a lot of flavor to the league. That's without a doubt. But I think they had a very poor season. Definitely poor season. And some of our projections that Nkana are going to be relegated, if you look at the last day, we were not wrong. And I think we need to start taking criticisms, making them positive. And I think we saw immediately they managed to get Best on Chambeshi, someone who knows the team very well. It was clear that they were going to survive. But coming to the last day, Kaba Warriors versus Indeni, Napsa Stars versus Nkana. For me, these 2 games were key to whatever was going to happen in the relegation. I was monitoring it. I was in Kitwe. And at a certain stage, Nkana were actually going to be relegated when Indeni were leading
by 2 goals to 1.
So just that clearly showed what the league has been for Nkana. Okay, it's embarrassing for teams, including NAPSA, for teams that are in the CAF, getting back into the league and fighting relegation. It's seriously embarrassing, and we hope the teams will learn to say they need to represent us with a lot of respect.
Let's take this call. Hold your thoughts. Good morning and welcome to Off the Pitch.
Good morning.
Good morning. May we know who's calling?
My name is PATSON, calling from
Copper Belt. Which town specifically on the Copper Belt?
In Luangwa.
What is your contribution this morning?
I want to comment on the top 4.
Please proceed.
Yeah, the top 4 is giving us a lot of value, especially in Kawadias and the Bejaros. Because if you see Kawadias, they are also struggling with the coach. So it is also a problem. You see, when we look at the players that Kawadias has, I don't know if they can manage to go in this group. They should pull up their socks so that we can see this from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and keep watching Camnet TV. Bwezani.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Proceed with your thoughts on Ghana Football Club.
Exactly. So they need to seriously the problems are not over. So they need to show when this season starts to say we are a different team from what was fighting relegation. But what was embarrassing, and this should not actually happen, what was embarrassing on the last day is on the field of play, Indeni were relegated. In the boardroom, it was Young Green Eagles who were relegated. For me, that was a miss. We had a very good season, but just that decision for me was a miss from the Football Association of Zambia, and we shouldn't have anything close to that in Zambian football. You look at Young Green Eagles, what they put into this league to make sure that they survive. You look at the game which I went to watch, the Young Green Eagles versus Nkana. That is the game that made them survive. And for them to be relegated on a player that did not have any part to play, and not their fault.
No, Bozani, I think let's have this fact correctly. Even if we made and changed the permutations of those 3 points, the battle is not between Nkana and Young Green Eagles. The battle still remains between Indeni, who are relegated on the field of play. Nkana has nothing to do with those 3 points. Even if we said we take away the 3 points.
No. I think you need to get me very clear. I'm saying Nkana is not wrong to fetch for those 3 points. It's their right. Okay? My complaint is the way this matter was handled by the Football Association of Zambia is just not supposed to happen in a professional league like Zambia, which is the 6th on the continent of Africa. That should not happen.
I totally agree with you.
That
totally
should not happen.
With you.
For Ghana to search for their points, they were correctly. They were very correct to search for those points. And the appeals committee to judge that the 3 points should be gotten away from Young Green Eagles, they were correct. You understand? So we need to start finding out where was the problem. I'm sure that is the question.
I think just to add on, I think it was a disappointment by the Football Association of Zambia, I think, to have acted in such a manner. Games are being played. I think it was in the 68th minute, if I'm not mistaken, 70th minute, somewhere there. That's when the decision came. So they had the entire week to inform these clubs to say this is the permutations. I think Young Green Eagles went into the game against Lusaka and was knowing a draw would be enough for them to stay up. I think to me now what happens is you make decisions as the game is being played, and they know that we are relegated. Young Green Eagles in the boardroom, they were relegated, but on the field of play, they got points. They worked for those points against Zesco United, against Ghana, against Zanaco, against NAPTA. They slaughtered teams at
Kosa Stadium.
At Kosa Stadium, and they made it fortress, and they knew this is the only way we are going to stay up. Because if you come into this league, you have to find a way of how you stay up. I think Young Green Eagles realized their home form is going to be very, very important. Then they did everything necessary to stay up. Points, numbers don't lie. Young Green Eagles survived relegation, but boardroom decisions, it has been happening for the last 5-6 years in the Zambian league. I think it's very, very poor for a league which is number 6, like Bozana said. We do not see this in the PSL to have boardroom decisions, points being awarded left, right, and center. I think to me, we have to be real. I think Ghana benefited the most from these boardroom decisions, which I think to me is a shame because this league is not from Ghana, if I have to be honest.
And maybe let me add up. I like the fact when he comes in and says this decision was already made. Let's not even think that it was made during the games. You understand?
It was made the previous day.
Yeah, it was made. It was supposed to be released. Now, the point where he says, sometimes the Football Association of Zambia brings these issues to themselves. You understand? Nkana, I will repeat, Nkana is innocent in this matter, but the perception of people will think that Nkana is being favored.
It's true.
Look, 72nd minute, what was the result? Indeni was leading against Kawe Warriors. There was a draw at Woodlands. Yes, and the draw in Chom. At that state, Nkana was in the relegation. You understand? And that's when this news came through and says, Young Green Eagles, the 3 points have been collected. I was in the commentary box. You look at the things, anyone who is thinking, they will say, no, this decision has been made to save Nkana.
Because of the 17 minutes remaining.
You understand what I mean? So, honestly, the timing of that announcement was just off.
I totally understand.
But it's even overshadowed the way PATSON Championship has done and Ghana Football Club, because now people think Ghana was just handed that survival. So, but I think credit must go to Ghana. They worked very, very hard. I think ever since Quicksilver went into that football club, Alex Ngonga, I think they have done that Ghana Football Club. They brought massive difference. They brought confidence into the team. They brought leadership into the team.
God, your thought, Augustine. When you look at this particular discussion, the turn of events at Football Association of Zambia have actually led to an administrative leave, moving away from the coaches that we've been monitoring in the Zambian League who've been sent on administrative leave. This particular focus now shifted to the General Secretary of the Football Association of Zambia because of the decisions that have been made in the last 2-3 weeks, or probably even a month. We have seen the situation where Adrian Kashala is now on administrative leave. Could that be one of the corrective actions that FAZ is trying to take to protect their own reputation as an association that sits and presides over the football matters in this country?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. The timing of the administrative leave and the events that preceded this administrative leave clearly states that the SG had lost it. And for me, I support this decision. Let's take, for instance, one case, the one we are talking about. Young Green Eagles have their goalkeeper with the national team. The second choice goalkeeper is on red card. The third choice goalkeeper is in a pure...
plaster of Paris, yeah, pure.
You understand what I mean, huh? So they go to the Football Association of Zambia, say, what do? We are asking if this game can be postponed. The advice that they are given, we've seen the documentation now. The letter from Young Green Eagles, the letter from the Football Association of Zambia signed by Kashala, and now we've seen the Weaver. We've also seen the receipt of the 5,000 kwacha. Look, that was going to set a very bad precedence, okay? Because Power Dynamos versus Nkana, they will
anybody who has a red card.
Based on Sakala, he has a red card. They will go to FAZ and say, Weaver, you understand? So that was not anything to do with football. That is one decision. The other decision is Omwenyachi people being suspended. Within 1 week, rescinded
yeah.
And said he's going to sit on the bench. I think clearly, if these decisions were made by the SG, then there's a problem. And this is why this administrative leave is coming. It is also shocking because, look, the president in the Football Association of Zambia is a ceremonial position. The SG
is the CEO.
Is the CEO and
true.
The one employed by the Football Association of Zambia. You understand? So it will be interesting to see how this unveils and where this administrative leave is going. But practically, everyone can now connect to say these decisions are the reasons as to why this administrative leave is coming.
I think just a question for Bwezani before we leave this issue. I think is it now the time that we have reached at Zambian football that we now delink the league from the association so that we stop having these kind of issues?
Well, I think that's the reason they actually employed the CEO to look at the National Division 1 and the Super League in Brian Mulenga. He's done pretty well in the National Division 1. Well run, this past one. Excellently run. So if he can give us that example to say he can run the National Division 1 like this, I think it is seriously time that the Super League, when we say Super League, we are talking about National Division 1 and the Zambia Super League division, they need to actually get off the Football Association of Zambia. Let the FA remain with the national teams. They have a lot of work to do with the national teams. You understand? Let this separate and then let the league run in its own. Because, look, there was Mark Dean from England who was actually rumored to have been given a contract to help stabilize on how the league can actually stand on its own. I think we need to get back into that fast so that at least we start working like the PSL in South Africa and any other divisions, that the leagues that are running independently from the association. Because if that doesn't stop, we will continuously be having this problem.
It will even be commercially viable if we delink the league from the Association of Zambia to come with a lot of benefits, not just for the clubs but for the country at large. I think it's a direction which we really need to take at this point.
All right, it's been a fantastic show and I'm enjoying every moment that we have, and I think on the other side of this commercial break we are going to look at the general overview of the league, how the center men have performed and how which one is the best club of the season that we can do. We will also talk about the best 11 players that we can combine from the league. On the other side of this commercial break, we'll catch us, you catch us live again in a short while.
Sunday TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 0730 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 0930 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluba with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chilua comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluba are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back to the show, and at this point I think critical things, we've discussed football in view the whole season. We've taken a look at the top 4 and the bottom 4 that have been relegated, but critical in our discussion, we've seen games being handled very, very differently by the centermen, the so-called FIFA, the referees, in inverted commas we call them FIFA. We've seen a couple of them who's made very, very drastic decisions on the field of play, and of course not to take away the fact that we've seen others also who have performed extremely good. Not that all the referees have probably performed to the expectations of the fans as well as the league managers as well. So I would like us to have a very, very brief discussion on your overview take on the performance of these referees in this past season. Bezan.
Well, I think they've impressed me, to say the least, especially the centermen. Where we have, for me, where I have had a lot of challenges is law number 11, offside. Yeah, I think honestly speaking, that has been the downplay, and it has nothing to do with the centermen, because the assistants are the key to that. The centermen, Roderick Nandu, Hambava, Janice Kazwe, look, they've actually done pretty well. There are also assistants, Diana Chikotesha, for instance,
of course,
excellent.
Yeah.
Understand? But just few, and I don't think there are a lot of games that we can actually complain about. There are just few games that we can look at, especially on the offside. A lot of teams have cried, especially Forest Rangers. Okay, they've been so much of victims of the offside. I saw one which, I keep playing it to really see where the offside is. It's not there. You can see it. Yeah, so yes, the centermen have done pretty well, but I think there's a lot of work that needs to do with those that are assistants.
Augustine, your view on the centermen in the past season?
I think some have been poor, some have been great. Some officiating has been, has been awful. If I have to be honest, they haven't controlled games. Some of these officials, but overall, I think I'll just give them a 7 out of 10.
Great. Kudos to the referees who've been doing their best, and we can only hope that during the course of the coming season you are going to improve and just give the fans and the teams that are working hard with regards to game preparations what they actually deserve on the field of play. To the assistant referees, work on rule number 11, like Bwezani has said. And at this point in time, gentlemen, I would like us to discuss the best 11 players of the past season, starting with the goalkeeper, very, very briefly. Who has been your best goalkeeper of the seasons in 2021?
For me, Sianjase, Young Green Eagles goalkeeper. For me, he's top notch. Of course, he needs to improve in his aerial balls, but on generally, Sianjase gets it for me.
Augustine.
I think for me, I go with Ian Otieno. I think he's been fantastic.
What? No way!
The most consistent players disconnected. I think I go with Tieno.
No way. Look, he has some Red Arrows connections because he's good. No. Look,
I'll break the tie. I'll break the tie. Augustine, even prior to Bwezani's coming this weekend, I spoke about Sanjase when they were away in the national team. I spoke, and it is on record, I spoke about it right here. I said one of the players that is actually missing at this Kosafa squad, probably in a different opinion, if I was going to go for the second option, I would have said probably Kevin Malunga has been one of the best goalkeepers in the last 10 games of the season. So, but generally speaking, because we are discussing the season, I'll go for Sanjase. Okay. So Sanjase wins.
Sanjase would have been on my bench.
Let's go to the right back. I'll start with you before Bwezani comes in.
I think right back, I think it has got no question in this league. I think it's Benedict Chepeshi. I think without a doubt, I think to have led the side which had offloaded about 12 players, it wasn't easy for Chepeshi. I think, but he was always the constant performer in that Red Arrow side. I think I'll go for Chepeshi.
And what I agree with him is his overlapping. Okay, what Benedict does that gives a lot of strength to the teams is you can kill off one wing.
Are you for Benedict Chepeshi?
Yes, I agreed.
Benedict Chepeshi takes as a right back. Let's go to the left back. I'll start with you. Left back.
Wow, one of the most difficult positions in Zambia. And how I wish we started with Augustine. Look, but for me, I think I would go for the Red Arrows young boy. I think he impressed me in that. He's overlapping as well. Prosper Chiluba.
I think for the left back, I go with Luka Chamanga. I think looking at his numbers, I think his goals, his assists, I think I'll go with Luka Chamanga.
Versatile Luka Chamanga. Probably there I will have a different opinion. I'll pick the young man from Zesco United who's been putting Kapumbu Chimba, for me, has been one of the best left backs that has risen to the ranks with the confidence of Numba Mumamba. So there now, we have 3 players. Prosper, very outstanding. Luka Chamanga, Power Dynamos, neither here nor there.
Well,
let's settle for one. We have to make the squad.
Well, let's look at the left back who pushed for his team to go into Continental. I think I would still be with Prosper.
I'll settle for Prosper as well, for a very simple reason. No. This is Red Arrows. The 2 young lads who stood and got into those big shoes of the departed defenders, they still managed to maintain and push the team forward to represent Zambia. I mean, represent Zambia at continental level. So Prosper takes the left back. Let's go to the 2 centre backs. Centre backs, not one at a time, both at the same time.
I think with centre backs, I'll go with Dominic Chanda, Kawa Warriors. I think has been very, very impressive. He's been a rock at the back, and I'll go with Terezo Shibwaba to have helped Red Arrows into contention.
Yeah, for me, I think I'll go for Dominic Chanda. I agree with the Augustine.
Partnering with?
I'll put Solomon Sakala. I think, look, coming into this season, it looked like it was going to be difficult for him, but I think he just top notch.
Dominic Chanda, one of the best central backs that we've ever had. But I think for me, I would have, if I was not going to be part of this discussion, I would have gone for Adrian Chama. He's been very, very consistent this season as well as a centre back.
Yeah. I think on the bench as well.
So Solomon Sakala takes it. Let's go to the central defending midfielder.
Benson Sakala, without a question.
Agreed.
I think to me, Pokatema wins it.
I'll go to Benson Sakala. Pokatema has been a letdown. I've watched him a couple of games. There's no way a midfielder, you get the ball in midfield, instead of pushing forward, every time Pokatema gets a ball, he wants to turn back and give it back to the centre halves. For me, that is progress being delayed. I would drop him and probably go for Benson.
Attacking midfielders.
Let's go to the attacking midfielders, the left and the right.
Kelvin Mubanga Kampamba takes 1 for me. You can add up.
I think I'll go with Prince Mumba. I think Kawa Warriors, I think he's been very, very good in central midfield for Kawa Warriors. I think I'll go with Prince Mumba.
I'll break the tie. I think my breaking of the tie will be based on the 2 players that you've mentioned. I'll not bring in a 3rd player because it will be non-progressive. Prince Mumba's height in midfield has always beaten me, if you ask me. He's a good player, he's a good lad. Like Bwezani has mentioned, Cabo Warriors need to do a lot to actually
He was scared
prepared.
to even take a penalty.
Thank you.
During
So
the Absa Cup.
I would probably.
How do you even go for such, man?
I would probably push him aside and go for the other one. Let's go to the centre forward.
I think without
A pair of 9 and 10.
I think Moses P and Fred Sam, I think the goals that they have scored, I think have helped their team. I think if you look at Fred Sam, GBFC were in big trouble and they got them out of that relegation fight, and Moses P probably got them to continental football.
Very quick one, very quick one.
Moses P too. That one is agreed. Partnering, wow. I'll still stick with James Chamanga. I think his experience, he may not have played very well, but I think his experience just moves everyone around.
I've been a critic of Friday Samu, so I will not say much on it. I will stick to James. Very quickly, under 2 minutes, under 1 minute, Bozani, who is your young player of the season?
Chanda Mkuka.
Augustine?
That's a good one as well. Yeah, but I'll go for Chanda Mkuka. Look, if you look at his stature and what he did in that midfield for Zesco United, he gets it for me.
Oh, great. Fantastic. For me, really, the young player of the season, I would have loved to give it to Jimmy Mukea. The boy has been very fantastic. Yeah. Coming from Malaiti Rangers, being entrusted with the role of being a centre forward in the midst of all those strikers. That's a boy who was there in the midst of Timothy Otieno, in the midst of Bono. He was in a squad with big names, yeah, but he stood to the occasion and did what he could do right for the team. So on the young player of the year, my opinion is I would have given it to Jimmy Mukea. That has even caused, I think, a call-up to the national team for the first time. Yeah. He's joined the COSAFA squad. We are running out of time, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having you. Very fantastic show it has been. Augustine, your last remarks before we close the show?
I think it's been a wonderful show. I think a big thanks to the viewers out there that tuned in to watch the show, and a big congratulations to the 23 Copa Queens that made it into the final squad going into the Olympics. I think, and big thanks to the entire production team for making this program possible, and big thanks to the viewers, Mercy.
Well, always a pleasure coming to CAMNET. You feel that freedom to speak when you are here. Even when on my right, the Nkana people, you still have that freedom. Because some of us are endangered species if you go to Kitu. But of course, to my Nkana fans, of course, this was just football. At the end of the day, we have a lot of Nkana friends. I think we talked about Nkana on principle, not on hate. And I'm happy that most of them have actually come to realize, I think we were right. It's still where we are. But that's the game. So thanks for the viewers, as well as CAMNET for always welcoming us when we come here.
That was Bwezani Mbewe, our guest this morning, who is a brother and a friend, and from the soccer fraternity. He's been a very, very good soccer analyst and a very, very good critique with regards to club performances across the continent of Africa, as well as the boundaries of this country called Zambia. We will be back with you next week with a show discussing nothing but women's football. Zambia national soccer team, the Copa Queens, are up at the Olympics, and we'll give you more details next weekend. And from me in the studio, keep watching CAMNET TV, because CAMNET is not just another channel. Signing off.